Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another fic by yours truly, Hollow Audio. Today, we will be reading Money Makes the World Go Wow by Halfagone, parentheses, Milky Way, spelled MILKYWXY. Summary. Danny had thought the bachelor audition contract was a joke. Well, the joke's on him because now he's stuck here trying not to die of embarrassment. Rating for this is teen and up audience. Archive warnings is no archive warnings apply. Category is M/M. Fandom is Danny Phantom and Batman all media types. Relationship is Tim Drake / Danny Phantom. Dead tired for those of you who are in the know. Characters are Danny Fenton, Tim Drake, Sam Manson. Additional tags, aged up characters, developing relationship, banter, flirting, bachelor auction, humor, lighthearted, and complete. This is in English, and it is about 2,719 words. Again, this is Money Makes the World Go Wow. One of these days, Danny would learn to turn down Sam's latest harebrained schemes. Today was not that day. This might be your worst idea yet, Danny deadpanned as he glowered at the limousine ceiling. Maybe if he glared hard enough, he'd burn a skylight into the velvet upholstery. At least then he'd have a bit of a breeze. Worse than the portal? Sam laughed, almost incredulous. Then she laughed again, a genuine one, when she saw the muted horror on his face. Don't look at me like that. It's not like I pushed you into the car this time. You asked me for help on your capstone and I delivered. Danny spluttered. I didn't think you were serious. Well, then that's on you for signing the contract before you finished reading it, Sam said, clucking her tongue at him. I promise it'll be fine. I read the contract thoroughly before I even showed it to you, and I know the event coordinator personally. I have my lawyers on speed dial. What could go wrong? The fact that you have to ask that question appalls me, Danny muttered under his breath. I knew I should have chosen the speed dating option. Now that would have been a stupid idea, she told him. It would have given me more data, he shot back, and a hot date. Or a creep who just decided to pick you out of a room full of strangers, Sam argued, squinting at him. And somehow a bachelor auction is better? Danny asked, bewildered. At least at a speed dating event, I wouldn't be objectified. If you had read the contract, you'd know there is a list of rules and etiquette all bidders have to follow, Sam said. If someone buys a date with you, you're only obligated to go on that one date, and it's provided by the resort. You'll be in public with a personal chef, all expenses paid. And you get your data points on a different income bracket. You're welcome. Oh, thank you, oh great savior, he drawled, unimpressed. And if I don't get bid on? Then I'll bid on you, she shrugged. Don't stress about it. I should know most of the bidders. It's basically any Nepo baby on the East Coast between ages 20 and 29. If a creep tries to bid on you, I'll just outbid them. Easy peasy. How was I even accepted as a bachelor? I'm assuming that on the contract I signed, I agreed to send photos. Danny glanced at her warily. I don't think I'm quite what this event is looking for. Sure you are, Sam told him. She counted on her fingers as she listed out. You're not too tall, not too short, athletic but not muscular, conventionally attractive, and you have a nice smile. I don't see why they wouldn't have accepted you. Wow, so I'm basic, Danny deadpanned. I feel so loved. Aw, I love you too. She patted him on the cheek. It's too bad I couldn't smuggle Tucker in. He would have loved to take photos. If you tell Tucker about this, I will never forgive you, he said with a frightening intensity. Sam just laughed. It didn't sound very promising for him. He spared a frantic look out the window as the limousine slowed, creeping up along the curb. He almost startled when Sam laid a hand on his arm and looked him dead in the eye. Her purple contacts looked wicked in the glow of the resort's neon sign. Don't forget to breathe, she reminded him. I'll be out in the audience if you need me. Danny expelled a forceful breath, chest deflating. He didn't know how long he'd held it there. He gave her a shy, nervous smile. Thanks, Sam. Go embarrass everyone out there for me. When Sam had shown him the contract, he'd laughed it off. Probably made a snarky comeback, too. Danny couldn't remember all the details now. He He did remember reading the words charity bachelor auction and immediately putting it down. Danny knew how Sam felt about popularity contests like these, even the more subtle ones. He had been so easy to play it off as a practical joke and think nothing of it. He'd even signed it for her just so she could roll her eyes at him. No wonder she had laughed so much at him in the car. Danny paced back and forth behind the curtain, absent-mindedly listening to the auctioneer babble. It was almost soothing, the constant stream of words. It might not have been enough to pause his pacing, but at least he hadn't resorted to picking his clothes. He'd spent a lot on this three-piece, and it was the only one that fit him. He couldn't afford to ruin it now. He rehearsed his part, his cue. He found it simpler to think of it like a theater performance, easier to swallow, too. His name wouldn't be called, kept private for his own safety. If someone won the bid on him, he would be expected to share his name, his interests, his flaws. Danny wondered if Sam would forgive him if he bolted. A hand signal across the stage caught his attention. A stagehand waved at him, then gestured with a cutting hand towards the bright, vaulted stage. At the same time, the auctioneer announced, "And next we have our lovely gentleman, number 13. Please step forward." With one last deep breath, Danny marched ahead. He tried to channel some of his confidence as Phantom, careless and charming and not at all terrified. As gentleman number 12 passed, a man not much older than Danny with blonde hair, he handed Danny the mic with a wink. Danny should have known he'd be doing improv that night. There was a tape on the floor to mark where he should stand. Thank fuck, Danny didn't want to think right now. The stage lights were truly blinding, but if Danny didn't stare straight at them, he could almost pretend they were fluorescent lights at Fenton Works. The announcer flashed him a smile. 13? Marissa, he replied on instinct in that same cheeky tone. A laugh echoed back from the audience. He was too dazed to be properly mortified by it. Thankfully, she found him rather funny, too. Well, aren't you off to a good start? Is there anything you'd like to say before we begin the bid? Anything you're looking for in a date tonight? A guy has to keep some secrets, Danny teased with a flirty lift of his shoulder. I don't want to expect much, really. If anything, I should warn you now that I'm very overstimulated and will probably forget your name more than once, so don't take it personally. Marissa shook her head, smirking. I think you'll do fine, she promised. Now, let's begin the bid. We are now in the 5th price bracket. All bids will now begin at $10,000. Danny nearly gave himself whiplash with how quick he turned to look at her. He heard a few chuckles from the audience, but he barely paid attention through the sheer audacity. Danny had come in tonight knowing that he'd be graded based on appearance. It had been more than a little jarring and left him a bit self-conscious, and while he certainly hadn't landed in the highest tier, he definitely didn't think he'd be worth $10,000 for a first date on a starting bid. He glanced at the crowd, hoping to spy Sam easily. And he did, her black hair like a beacon in the sea of red gowns and white tuxes. She gave him a satisfied little smirk, smug to prove him wrong, as always, and lifted her paddle. She wasn't the only one. Danny tried to hamper the rest of his shock. The bachelor auction had been a co-ed event, in the sense that bidders could be any gender. He spied a few men with their paddles raised, and a handful of women as well. He had been so nervous no one would bid for him. It had never occurred to him that people might argue over him. Marissa must have smelt the blood in the water, because she spared no time before calling out, Do we have 15,000? We have 15,000. Do we have 20,000? I see 20,000. Do we have... He must have looked like a fish out of water as he clutched the microphone with both hands, an almost pitiful thing. The fact that it still didn't stop people from bidding on him concerned him a little. Sam had always told him that other trust fund babies her age had eccentric tastes, but he hadn't thought it stretched this far. As the price rose, the numbers dwindled. Danny didn't even blame them. This was getting a bit absurd. When the price hit 100,000, he felt breathless. When the price hit 125,000, he stopped breathing altogether. By the time the price hit 250,000, $250,000, holy crap! There were only 2 bidders left, and it was easy to pick the pair out in the crowd when everyone else turned to watch the thrilling showdown. Sam was obvious. Danny expected that. He did not expect Tim Drake. Danny could recognize him on sight. He'd never met the man, of course. The pair of them lived in 2 completely different worlds, but he had a burgeoning crush on him in high school when Tim was fresh from his trip around the world and the head of his own charity organization. He'd always looked so put together, composed despite the assassination attempts, calm amidst the storm. And Danny, drowning in responsibility and barely keeping his head afloat, had thought Tim could fix all his problems. He might be the start of a new one. Dressed in a double-breasted piece tailored to perfection, Tim looked almost too comfortable among the sea of white tablecloths and sparkling cider. He looked divine. He looked ravenous, with a glint in his blue eyes that promised something. Tim promised something, and Danny didn't think he'd ever be ready. Tim promised something, and Danny didn't think he'd ever be ready. The choice was ripped away the moment Marissa cried, "Sold!" Danny blinked back to himself, Riviere broken, to hear Marissa concluding the bid with an astounding, "Tim Drake has won quite the date with gentleman number 13 for a dazzling $1 million. All proceeds will go to the..." Danny didn't hear the rest. Last he checked, the bid had been at $300,000. How had it jumped to $1 million? Danny knew Sam had only been allowed to spend no more than $500,000. There was no way she would have tried to bluff Tim out of the bid. No, Tim had made the leap to secure it. Him. Tim wanted a date with him. Huh. He passed the mic along to gentleman number 14 without a word spared, too lost in his own head. The stagehand from earlier accosted him in the hallway before he could reach the ballroom floor. "Are you okay?" She looked worried, brows stitched close together on her forehead. "Yeah," Danny said, surprised by the confidence in his voice. "Yeah, I feel great." "You looked a little out of your depth," Tim said when it was all over. When the auction had ended, the show began to pack up. Danny didn't know how long he had wandered the resort, avoiding the casino and the ballroom like the plague. And then he had to come back, head a bit clearer than before, to see Tim lean against the banister, tie loose, hair tousled, like an asshole. Like a dream. "You," Danny murmured in wonder and bafflement. "Fuck you, honestly." Tim laughed, a full-bellied one that shook his shoulders too. "Did I come on too strong? I'm sorry." "You, too strong? You spent $1 million on me," he reminded the man, because surely he knew how much $1 million could be. Certainly better, more enjoyable things than a date with plain old Danny. "It's for charity," Tim replied, as if that explained everything. "You didn't have to spend it on me, though," Danny said. Tim just shrugged. Anything for charity. When Danny merely shook his head at him, he added, "A guy has to keep some secrets." Belatedly, Danny realized he'd said the same thing on stage with a nervous tongue and a spark of charm. He held a hand to his face, hoping the chill of it would cool his blush. It succeeded, up until Danny glanced a peek at Tim again, heat crawling up his spine at the dissecting gaze. For a moment, he thought Tim might eat him alive. Danny might even let him. "Is that why you bid on me?" Danny asked, despite his better judgment. "Because you liked my mouth?" If Tim processed the innuendo, he didn't acknowledge it. "I thought you were cute and embarrassed, and I figured I might as well save you the nerves. I had to reach a certain quota on this trip. Why spend it on someone else when I could spend it on you?" Danny didn't know how Tim had looked at him and saw anything resembling cute, but he supposed he couldn't account for taste. His stomach swooped, like he had just transformed midair. Any minute now, Danny expected to crash headfirst, for it to be just another joke. No one was laughing this time. "We can wait on dinner, if you like," Tim told him quietly. "We do have all night." Danny chewed on his bottom lip. He would have to go on the date. It was in the contract he'd signed. And he'd hated to make Tim waste $1 million and come back with nothing. It wasn't as if Danny felt nothing towards him. That silly childhood crush had reared its ugly head and threatened to have him sinking into the floor with shame. Danny did really like him. Maybe that was part of the problem. "We don't have to wait," Danny said. "It's not every day you get to have a date with the millionaire Tim Drake." Tim bowed with a flourish. "I see I need no introduction. I think I'd still like one from you, though." "Danny." He's pretty sure they're far past the point of handshakes. "Danny Fenton. I came with Sam Manson." "Manson?" Tim repeated, a brow raised. "No wonder she tried to outbid me. Even if you weren't her friend, she hates my guts." "Well, good to know you're not just a creep then," Danny remarked. At Tim's questioning look, he explained, Sam promised to bid on me if creeps tried to. I feel like I should be offended, but that's pretty tame for her, Tim said, seemingly lost in thought, and then he snapped back into focus, like a crack of an elastic band. His blue eyes were so much more piercing in person. Will you be going home with her tonight? Maybe. Danny tried to be flirty, and then failed. Probably. Sorry, no amount of money you spend on me is going to make that happen right away. It was ironic, now that Danny thought about it, how twice in his life he had been bought for $1 million. Maybe Danny should start keeping track. I didn't expect to, Tim replied, smirking, though I would just hate to keep her waiting. Danny could hear the curious lit as he trailed off at the end. It took a moment for his brain to process what Tim meant. You're going to drag this date out as long as possible, aren't you? Danny quipped. Maybe, Tim said with the same cheeky smugness. Only if you'll let me. I might let you get away with more than you think. And there, finally, Danny managed to spark something other than confidence. Tim's face flushed, briefly, pink-tinged cheeks and flummoxed brows. Danny smiled, pleased. He tilted his head, batting his lashes playfully. Take me to dinner, why won't you, Tim? With haste, Tim hummed, offering the crook of his elbow to Danny to take. He accepted gladly and tried not to squirm tucked up against Tim's waist. Well, at least Danny still got his hot date. And that was Money Makes the World Go Wow by Halfagone. I hope y'all enjoyed this fic. I hope you have a splentastic day. And I will see you when I see you next. What if I hear you when I hear you next? No, because I can't hear you, but y'all can hear me. Anyways, until next time.